My name is Vivian Hale, and I used to believe a marriage was built on shared walls, shared meals, shared plans. I believed a house meant home. I believed trust was something two people held together. I was wrong in ways I did not yet understand. The evening it began, my husband Caleb sat at our kitchen table as though delivering a difficult kindness. The kettle was still warm from tea. The children's drawings hung on the fridge like anchors of our life. He folded his hands and spoke slowly. "We should adjust the property paperwork," he said. "It makes more sense if the house is legally in my name. Simplifies taxes, liability, future planning." His tone was calm, practiced. The tone of someone who has already decided for you. I asked, "Since when is the house legally in your name?" Caleb looked at me with a soft smile that did not reach his eyes. "It always has been. You know that." I did not know that. I remembered the day we closed on the house. My hand in his. My signature next to his. I remembered choosing the paint colors and planting rosemary by the back steps. I remembered believing that belonging was shared. But memory and paperwork are different kinds of truth. He kissed my forehead and said, "Trust me. This is just practical. Trust me." A phrase that becomes a blade when spoken at the wrong moment. He went to bed. I stayed awake. When the house is silent, thoughts sharpen. Something in his voice had been too smooth, too prepared, too certain I would not question anything. I went to the office and checked the file drawer. Receipts, appliance manuals, tax forms. No deed. I checked the fireproof box in the closet. Birth certificates, passport copies, insurance documents. No deed. The absence was too deliberate. Then I remembered something small and almost silly. My bedside drawer. The one I use for things no one else cared about. Ticket stubs, ribbon. A postcard my grandmother once sent me. I opened it. A folded envelope sat beneath the postcard. My name written in my own handwriting. I did not remember placing it there. My hands were steady as I opened it. Inside was a certified copy of the deed. Clear. Official. Recorded with the county. The property was granted to me. Sole owner. Not shared. Not split. Not negotiable. The signature was mine. The notary stamp sharp. The date from years earlier. Long before Caleb suggested convenient adjustments. I sat on the edge of the bed, the deed resting across my knees. The house, our house, the house I had painted and cleaned and filled was legally mine. So why had he just told me otherwise? I returned to the kitchen. His phone was on the counter, screen lit with a message he had not silenced. A text from a number I did not recognize. Did she believe it? A reply from him. She will. My breath did not quicken. Shock did not come like a wave. Came like clarity. This was not confusion. This was strategy. I took my coat, the deed, and the phone. I drove to my sister Claire's house. She opened the door before I knocked. Something in my face must have told her everything. We sat at her table as the sky turned pale. I spread out the deed, the text messages, the timeline. Claire listened, hands folded, eyes calm. She had always been the one who did not panic when truth arrived sharply. She said only 5 words. "Do not confront him yet." I understood. There is a difference between anger and evidence. I called a real estate title agent we both trusted. He answered immediately. "Vivian, bring the document. Do not tell him you have it." I drove there at sunrise. The office lights hummed. The agent examined the deed with care. "This is valid," he said. "You are the legal owner. If he is claiming the house is his, then he is setting up something else. Possibly a refinance. Possibly a transfer attempt. Possibly debt under your address." The floor shifted beneath my feet. Not because I felt weak, but because I finally understood the battlefield. Then he looked up and said, "Whoever told you the house is his is preparing to take something from you." My phone buzzed. A message from Caleb. "We need to talk. Do not make this difficult." But I already knew something he did not know. I had the deed, and I had timing. I was no longer asking questions. I was preparing my proof. I did not go home that morning. I drove to the cafe across from the courthouse instead. The windows were fogged, the pastries looked tired, but the silence was clean. I needed a place where my thoughts could sit without interruption. I laid the deed on the table. My name. Clear, legal, unshakable. And then I laid my phone beside it. The message he had sent still glowed. Do not make this difficult. People who say that are very afraid of difficulty. I ordered tea. My hands did not shake. I began listing details from the past months. Times he came home late, claiming investor dinners. Times he took calls in the garage. Times he paused a conversation the moment I entered the room. All small things. All easy to excuse. But when placed beside a lie this large, they formed shape. I opened our joint banking app. Scrolling felt like wading into cold water. There were withdrawals I did not recognize. A payment to a contracting firm we had never hired. An electronic transfer to an account in his name only. Small amounts at first. Then larger. Then regular. He had been shifting money out of our shared finances slowly, steadily. Assuming I would never look. Assuming I trusted him enough to stay blind. I screenshotted everything. At 8 in the morning I drove back to Claire's house. She had already set out folders, pens, and her old laptop. She worked in accounting for years. She knew patterns. She knew what numbers look like when someone tries to hide intention. We built a timeline. The day he told me the house was legally his. The first withdrawal. The second. The sudden purchase of equipment we did not need. The appointment he said was work. But the calendar listed simply private. His pattern was steady. Controlled. Confident. Claire looked at me over the laptop. This is not about convenience, she said. He is preparing for separation. My stomach did not drop. Some truths do not surprise you. They confirm you. What is he planning to take? I asked. She pointed to the deed. Not the house. He knows he cannot win that. He is building leverage. He wants the savings. The retirement accounts. Custody positioning. He wants to rewrite the narrative so you look unstable. It makes his claim stronger. The air felt sharp. Caleb had always been calm. Reasonable. Charming. People liked him. He could convince rain not to fall if he chose the right tone. A man like that does not scream. He does not slam doors. He does not threaten with fists. He threatens with paper. He threatens with credit scores and signatures and procedures. We drove to the title office at 9. The agent was waiting. He had the full property record pulled. The house had been recorded in my name since the day we bought it. The mortgage was joint. The equity was joint. But the ownership was legally mine. That part was clear. Then he slid another document across the counter. A lien attempt. Filed 2 weeks earlier. Filed by Caleb. And signed. Incomplete. The agent said. He is preparing to claim contribution. If he gets certain documents filed before you react, he could tie your house up in negotiation. Not take it, but freeze it. Freeze it. Make it unusable. Make it leverage. That was when I understood. This was not a personal betrayal. It was a strategy. We left the office. Claire parked the car near the river. Neither of us spoke for a while. The water was slow and brown and patient. The world does not speed up just because your life is on fire. Finally, she asked, "What do you want to do?" I looked at the water. I thought of the house. The rosemary by the back steps. The curtains I hemmed by hand. The small drawer with the deed. The life built in careful layers. I want to keep what is mine, I said. Then we need help, she replied. She called her colleague. A family lawyer known for precision, not drama. We drove straight to her office. The lawyer listened without interrupting once. Her pen moved like a metronome. Finally, she said, "You must not confront him yet. You gather. You document. You make your case clean. And when you finally speak, you do so from legal ground, not emotional ground." I nodded, not because I liked calm, but because I needed it. The lawyer looked directly at me. "Vivian, do you understand? Once he realizes you know the truth, the situation will change quickly." I thought of his text. "Do not make this difficult." "Yes," I said. "I understand." We left the office. I drove home. When I walked in, Caleb was sitting at the kitchen table. Hands folded. Expression soft. Practice concern ready. And then he said the sentence that changed everything. "Vivian, I spoke with an attorney today too. He believed he was ahead. He believed I was unprepared. He had no idea I had the deed. He said it casually, like discussing a grocery list. I spoke with an attorney today too. The words were placed gently, but they were meant to land hard. He wanted me to react. He wanted to measure my surprise. I didn't give him any. "Oh," I asked, pouring water into a glass. The sound of the faucet steadied me, anchored me. "About what?" He shrugged, as though the matter were too ordinary to matter. "Planning. Asset protection. Future-proofing. It's smart to get ahead of things. My lawyer says transferring the house fully into my name will streamline everything." He waited. Watched. I sipped the water. Streamline for whom? He smiled. Not a warm smile. A smile that meant checkmate before the game begins. "For us," he said. "Just sign when the documents come. It will make things easier." I looked at him, and for the first time in our marriage I did not see my husband. I saw a strategist. He thought I was still operating in trust. He did not know I was already operating in proof. "Of course," I said softly. "Just show me the paperwork when it's ready." His shoulders relaxed. He believed me. He always believed I would yield if he used the right tone. He kissed my forehead and left for work. The moment the door shut, I locked it behind him. Then I moved. I gathered every bank statement, insurance record, loan file, tax return, and contract into a neat stack on the dining table. I photographed every page with timestamps. I uploaded copies to a cloud account under a new password. I stored a second set on a flash drive I tucked into my boot. Then I did something most people forget to do. I checked the mailbox. Bills. Flyers. A credit card offer. And a letter. Addressed to him. Return address. A local financial advisory office. I did not open it yet, but I photographed the outside. Then I drove to the bank where Claire's friend worked as a loan officer. She greeted me warmly, but her eyes sharpened when she saw the folder in my hands. We sat in her office. Neutral carpet. Soft ticking clock. A place where financial wars begin quietly. She reviewed the accounts. Her jaw tightened. "Vivian." He opened a personal line of credit last month. Secured by the house address. Not the deed. The address. That is how he could do it without your signature. She tapped the screen. He can only draw against it if he convinces the lender he has controlling interest in the property. Controlling interest. The phrase felt like a lock clicking shut. "That's why he was trying to get me to sign," I said. "Yes," she replied. "If you had signed anything acknowledging his sole ownership, even casually, even in email, it would strengthen his claim." I exhaled slowly. He hadn't been panicking. He'd been preparing. She printed everything. We highlighted dates, amounts, names. Claire scanned it all again when we returned home. Our lawyer called that afternoon. Her voice was firm, calm, the kind that slices fog. "Vivian, listen carefully. Do not accuse him. Do not confront him. Not yet. Everything relies on timing." I understood. We drafted 3 steps. Step 1. Secure the proof of sole ownership. Already done. Step 2. Document financial transfers for court. In progress. Step 3. File a notice of interest before he attempts any title action. To be done quietly before he suspects. By evening I was composed. Steady. Certain. Caleb returned late. He took off his coat. Opened wine. Spoke lightly about his day as though betrayal were not being woven behind every sentence. He asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I said yes. He sat beside me on the couch, his arm around my shoulders. He looked at peace. Because he believed he was ahead. Because he believed I was still sleeping through the storm. Halfway through the film, his phone lit up on the table. A message preview appeared. Not a name. Just an initial. Meeting confirmed. She will sign once pressure is applied. I did not breathe. I did not move. Pressure. He was planning to corner me. I looked at him. He didn't notice. He didn't look away from the screen. I turned off the movie. "Let's talk about the house," I said. He froze. He turned toward me slowly. And the first words out of his mouth were not an explanation. They were, "Who told you? Who told you?" Not "what do you mean?" Not "I can explain." Not even the performance of confusion he had always been so good at. Just that. A confession disguised as a question. I held his gaze. I did not raise my voice. Silence is its own interrogation. No one told me, I said. I looked. His jaw tightened. The hand holding the wineglass went still. He set it down slowly, carefully, like the room might break if he moved too fast. Vivian, you're misunderstanding the situation. He always used my name when he wanted control. He thought it grounded the conversation. He thought it made him the steady one. No, I answered. I'm understanding it exactly. He leaned back. His expression shifted, not to anger but to calculation. He had practiced this. He had prepared for the moment I questioned him. He thought I would do it later, weak or exhausted. Not here. Not while I was steady. You do not need to worry, he said. Everything I'm doing is for stability. For our future. The way the deed is set up is messy. The house will be safer under my name. My name. My deed. My home. I didn't argue those facts. I didn't need to. Instead I said, why didn't you just ask? He blinked. For the first time he faltered. Because asking requires honesty. And honesty reveals intent. It is easier this way, he said. Too quickly. Too smoothly. You get overwhelmed. I handle things better. I was taking care of us. Taking care of us. A sentence built from smoke. You were transferring money out of our accounts, I said. Small withdrawals, then larger ones. Regular patterns. His eyes flickered. The smallest tell. But a tell nonetheless. I continued, voice even. You opened a personal line of credit secured against the property address. You contacted a lawyer about title transfer. You prepared leverage. His expression didn't crack. He simply changed tactics. I'm trying to protect us from debt. From uncertainty. From. You're preparing to leave, I said. No tremor. No question. Just truth placed plainly. He inhaled. That was all the answer I needed. Men like him don't admit. They pause. I stood and walked to the dining table where I had placed the copies. I didn't slam them. I didn't gesture. I simply laid them out, neat and undeniable. The deed. The bank transfers. The lien attempt. His face did not show guilt. It showed annoyance. You went through my things. You went through our life, I said. He exhaled long, slow, condescending. Vivian, you are emotional. This is why I didn't involve you in the logistics. You react. You don't analyze. I make decisions based on practicality. He was still trying to narrate the story. Make me unstable. Make him the rational steward. But I already had facts. Facts do not tremble. I already met with an attorney, I said. We filed a notice of interest this morning. The title is protected. Any attempt you make to alter ownership will be blocked immediately. The color left his face. He tried to hide it, but fear is a hard thing to swallow. You shouldn't have done that, he murmured. Then sharply, you don't understand how this will look. You don't know how courts interpret contribution. I supported this family. I paid for repairs. I made improvements. I can claim equitable interest. He said it like a threat. But in that moment he revealed something else. He already knew he had lost legal ownership. He was trying to argue value instead. I nodded once. Then we'll show receipts. Every dollar spent. Every hour worked. Every transfer. His jaw clenched. He knew what that meant. Because I had already documented. Already printed. Already time-stamped. The room went quiet. Finally he said, if you push this it will get ugly. I looked at him, really looked. At the man who once held my hand in the grocery store aisle. At the man who laughed in the kitchen while water boiled. At the man who now saw me as something to control. It is already ugly, I said. He didn't shout. He didn't break. He simply stood and walked upstairs without another word. The soft sound of his footsteps was somehow louder than any argument. I did not follow. I stayed at the table with the documents and the truth and my steady breath. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. He is meeting with a realtor tomorrow morning. You need to be ready. Someone else knew. Someone was warning me. And they were not on his side. The message glowed on my screen. He is meeting with a realtor tomorrow morning. You need to be ready. No name. No signature. No explanation. Just a warning. I stared at it for a long moment. Not because I doubted it, but because truth, when it arrives from an unexpected direction, has a particular weight. Someone knew his plans. Someone cared enough or needed me strong enough to tell me. I typed one word back. Who? 3 dots appeared. Stopped. Peered again. Then. Doesn't matter. Protect yourself. I locked my phone and let the silence sit. Claire came downstairs with 2 coffees. She looked at my face and didn't ask. She simply waited. I handed her the phone. She read the message and exhaled through her nose. Someone close. Someone who benefits if you don't get blindsided. Someone who knows his timeline. We both understood what that meant. Not an ally. Not yet. Just someone with something to lose if he won. We didn't speculate further. Speculation wastes time. Proof is what matters. We needed a countermove. I called my lawyer. She answered with her usual calm. Vivian, what happened? I told her about the realtor meeting. She didn't sound surprised. Of course. He's trying to establish possession narrative. If he shows a realtor the property without your presence, he can later claim that you were already separating emotionally from the residence. It builds psychological framing for court. Then how do I stop it? You don't stop it, she said. You witness it. The difference was surgical. You show up. You are calm. You smile. You shake hands. You mention the deed once. Lightly. Casually. The realtor will understand immediately, and Caleb will lose the narrative advantage. And if he tries to push me out? Her voice sharpened, quiet and precise. Then you do not raise your voice. You say only, I own this home. The deed is in my name. There will be no listing. Then you walk back inside. Simple. Controlled. Unshakable. We planned every word. Then night came. Caleb didn't speak to me. He moved through the house like a ghost rehearsing his next performance. He slept in the guest room. I didn't go near the door. I woke before dawn. Made coffee. Stood barefoot in the kitchen where everything had started. The doorbell rang at 9:02. Caleb appeared from the hallway immediately. Too quickly. Hair combed, shirt pressed, expression disarmingly friendly. The realtor stood on the porch. A woman in her 40s. Professional. Observant. Neutral. The kind of person who sees everything without reacting. Caleb opened the door before I could reach it. You must be Dana, he said warmly. Thank you for coming. I am excited to show you the property. My wife is here too, of course. She's still processing things. Still processing. A gentle way to imply instability. Dana nodded politely. I stepped forward, calm as still water. Good morning, I said. Before we start, there's something you should know. Both of them looked at me. I did not raise the deed like a weapon. I simply spoke the truth. The home is exclusively titled in my name. The deed is recorded with the county. There will be no listing discussion today. Dana blinked. Once. Then her posture changed. Professional. Neutral. Immediately aware. She turned to Caleb. Is that accurate? His smile cracked like thin porcelain. Well, the ownership situation is evolving, he said. Dana shook her head, polite but firm. Title determines authorization. Without shared title, I cannot proceed. She extended her hand, not to me, but to conclude the appointment. Caleb's face drained of color. He waited until she walked down the driveway. He did not look at me. I turned to go back inside. But he spoke. Low. Cold. Controlled. You think you've won. I didn't answer. Because winning wasn't the goal. Keeping what was mine was. But then he added something. Something he should not have said. I am not done. I have leverage you don't know about. My hand paused on the doorframe. I turned slowly. What leverage? He smiled, the first real smile I had seen from him in weeks. Ask your sister. The world didn't spin. The ground didn't shift. But something inside me went very, very still. The betrayal was not just his. It had another name attached. Ask your sister. The words were not shouted. They didn't need to be. They were placed like a chess piece, deliberate and final. Caleb walked past me, straight to his car, and drove away without another look. He didn't slam a door. Men like him never slam doors. They don't need volume. They use implication. I stood still in the doorway until the engine sound faded. Then I called Claire. She answered on the second ring. "Everything okay?" she asked. Her voice was steady, familiar, grounding. The voice I had leaned on. "He said you know something," I said. "He said you have leverage." There was silence. Not long, but long enough. "Vivian," she said slowly, "come over." Not he's lying, not ignore him. Just come over. That was the first time fear brushed my spine. I drove to her house, the morning sunlight slicing across the windshield too sharply. When I arrived, Claire was already sitting at the table, hands folded, like she had been waiting for this moment for a long time. She did not ease into the conversation. "He talked to me 2 months ago," she said. My heartbeat did not speed. It disappeared, like stepping into deep water. "About what?" I asked. "He said he was thinking about refinancing the house. He said you were stressed, that you wanted less responsibility." He made it sound logical, and I believed him. I told him which bank officers to talk to. My throat felt tight, not because of betrayal, but because of how clean it was. "He used me," she continued, "to get the information he needed, and I didn't see it. I didn't question him. I thought he was trying to help you." I sat, slowly, like my bones had been replaced with stone. "Claire," I said quietly, "why didn't you tell me?" Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. "Because I didn't know the truth yet. But when you came to me last week with the deed, with the transfers, with everything," she swallowed hard. "I realized what he had done, and I didn't know how to say I had been part of it. She had been weaponized. Not willingly, not knowingly, but effectively." "Look at me," I said. She did. "This is not your fault." She shook her head. "I opened the door for him." "No. He built the door. You just didn't know what house you were in." Her breath broke. She covered her mouth with her hand. For the first time in days, I felt something other than cold calculation. I felt pain, but not the kind that crushes, the kind that clarifies. We sat like that for a long moment, sisters, still choosing each other. Then she wiped her eyes. "There's more," she said. I nodded. Of course there was. "He tried to get me to convince you to sign something. He said if I suggested it, you'd trust it more." Her voice shook. "I didn't. I couldn't. But the fact that he asked, it means he's out of easy options," I said. Claire looked relieved to have the words spoken aloud. "What do we do now?" she asked. I opened my folder. The deeds. The bank printouts. The lien attempt. The documentation was no longer just evidence. It was armor. We take away the only leverage he has left. Which was not the house. Not the bank accounts. Not the reputation. It was the story. If he controlled the narrative, he controlled the battlefield. So we planned. Not in anger. In structure. My lawyer would file for temporary financial injunction. Claire would submit written statement documenting his approach. We would request forensic audit of the credit line. And we would prepare for the one place he thought he could win, public perception. Because men like Caleb don't fear losing money. They fear losing the version of themselves they display to the world. That evening I returned home. The house was quiet. Too quiet. His coat was gone. His shoes were gone. His desk drawers were empty. He had left. Not permanently. Just strategically. A retreat to regroup. I walked through the room slowly. The living room. The kitchen. The hallway lined with photographs. None of it felt unfamiliar. None of it felt broken. It felt like the moment before a storm breaks open. My phone buzzed. A message. From Caleb. "You think you have everything under control. You don't. I'm done being patient." And then a second message. "You won't like what comes next." I read it once. Then again. Then I smiled. Because he had just made the first mistake he couldn't take back. He put the threat in writing. The moment he hit send, the power shifted. And he didn't even realize it yet. His message stayed on my screen like a stain. "You won't like what comes next." Most people would panic at a threat like that. But threats are only dangerous if they are unrecorded. His was time-stamped, documented, legally useful. I forwarded it to my lawyer with no commentary. Her reply came within minutes. Do not respond. We move now. I didn't ask for clarification. I already knew what she meant. We had gathered proof. We had tracked transfers. We had secured the deed. Now we shifted from defense to offense. I drove to the courthouse the next morning just after sunrise. The hallways were quiet, echoing cold. Legal buildings always feel like the air has been scrubbed of warmth. My lawyer was already waiting. She placed a stack of documents in my hands. We are filing for emergency financial protective injunction, she said. This will freeze assets under dispute and prevent him from moving funds, selling property, or claiming leverage. And the threat message? I asked. She nodded. It supports the petition. It demonstrates coercive intent. In other words, he handed us a weapon. I was simply here to place it on the table. We filed the paperwork. Stamped. Logged. Entered. The freeze would go into effect once a judge reviewed it. With the evidence we had, that review would not take long. On the drive home, my phone buzzed again. This time not from him. From an unknown number. But the tone was different than before. He is meeting with someone today. Not a lawyer. Someone worse. Be careful. My pulse did not spike. Fear was a luxury I no longer allowed myself. I typed one word. Who? The reply came fast. His brother. That changed the temperature of the air. His brother Marcus was not the violent type. He was the charming type. The type who smiled while taking something from your hands. The type who never got dirty himself, but always seemed to benefit from mess around him. If Caleb was strategy, Marcus was execution. The two of them together were not dangerous emotionally. They were dangerous logistically, which meant they were planning something practical, something actionable, something soon. I parked in front of the house and sat there, engine off, thinking through every scenario. They could try to remove items from the home. They could claim shared property rights. They could attempt forced access. But the deed, my deed, was iron. Unless they tried to claim abandonment. If they could prove I had voluntarily vacated the residence, they could request temporary possession, which would give them foothold, which would give them narrative, which would give them time. Time is the currency of legal harm. I grabbed my phone and called the locksmith we had used once when the back door latch failed. He remembered me. He came within 2 hours. We changed every external lock. I documented the change. Photos. Timestamp. Witness signature from the locksmith. Not to keep them out permanently. To prove possession. Half an hour later, headlights appeared in the driveway. Caleb. And Marcus. Perfect timing. They got out of the car, confident, synchronized, like men who had rehearsed a conversation in the car. Caleb stepped forward. Vivian, he said calmly, we are here to pick up some of my things. His voice was soft, reasonable, virtuous. Marcus stood behind him, smiling like someone watching a slow game he expected to win. I opened the door, stepped outside, and closed it behind me. No, I said. Not today. Caleb exhaled, controlled. Vivian, the house is still jointly marital property. We can't escalate this. Let us inside, and we'll take only what's ours. I looked at him evenly. The house is titled in my name. I have a protective injunction filed. Any attempt to enter without coordinated legal inventory is trespassing. Marcus laughed lightly. You wouldn't call the police on your own husband. I didn't smile. I didn't blink. I don't call anyone, I said. I already filed. That was when Caleb stopped pretending. His voice lost all softness. You think paperwork will save you? No, I said. Truth will. The silence stretched. Then Marcus's smile disappeared. He looked at Caleb. Let's go, he muttered. But Caleb didn't move. Not yet. He stepped closer. So close I could see the tiny stress crease forming between his eyebrows. This isn't over, he whispered. And I whispered back. It is. You just haven't felt it yet. They left. The gravel crunched under their tires. The willow's branches swayed in the wind. The house was mine. The ground was mine. The calm was mine. But calm never lasts before the breaking point. I went back inside. The kitchen lights flicked on. My phone buzzed. A final message from the unknown number. He's not giving up. Check your mailbox. Now. I walked to the mailbox, opened the metal door, and saw the envelope with my name written in his handwriting. The envelope was thin, not heavy like legal documents, not bulky like evidence, just a single sheet of paper inside. My name written in his handwriting. Not rushed, not angry, careful, controlled. That alone made my chest tighten. I did not open it outside. The mailbox was exposed. The street was open. Eyes could be anywhere. I walked back into the house, locked the door, and stood at the kitchen table. The same table where he had first told me the house was legally his. I unfolded the letter. It was not an apology. It was not rage. It was not bargaining. It was a move. Vivian, I know what you are doing. I know who is advising you. You think you are safe because of a deed. But a house does not mean you can erase everything else. You don't understand what you are risking. Walk away from this now and we can handle things like adults. No court. No division. I will not take the house if you sign over accounts and agree to joint custody on my terms. If you don't, everything becomes public. And I will not be responsible for what happens when people hear your version of the truth. See? Not a threat of violence. Worse, a threat of character. He was telling me exactly how he would fight. Not with force. With narrative. He wanted to paint me unreasonable, unstable, emotional, vindictive. He wanted me to look like the woman who couldn't let go. The woman who made a house into a battlefield. The woman whose story cracked under pressure. He thought I wouldn't risk shame. He thought I feared judgment the way he feared losing control. But I had already learned something he hadn't. Shame only destroys the person who is hiding. And I had nothing to hide. I took a photo of the letter. Saved the full image. Saved a backup. Then I sent it to my lawyer. Her response came quickly. Good. He has now implied coercion and parental leverage. This helps us. Most people don't understand this part of strategy. When someone tries to scare you with consequences, they reveal the limit of their reach. And Caleb's limit was perception. He needed to look like the steady one, the calm one, the rational one. So the moment he put pressure in writing, his foundation cracked. Still, I needed to think carefully. Not emotionally. Structurally. Claire sat across from me now, silent, watching my face. Say it out loud, she said gently. What does he want? He wants control of the story, I replied. Not the house. Not the money. If he controls the story, he keeps his reputation. He hates losing more than he loves anything. Claire nodded. So take the story away from him. I looked at her. Slow. Measured. How? She leaned forward. You tell the truth first. Not in gossip. Not to friends. Not on social media. To the court. On record. Documented. Signed. Our lawyer confirmed it when we called. Vivian, she said. If you file a sworn declaration before he initiates litigation, your version becomes the starting narrative. Everything he files after that will be viewed in response to your claim, not the other way around. Meaning, the person who speaks first is the one the system listens to most closely. And Caleb had just given me the timing window I needed. We prepared the declaration. Every detail clean. Every event dated. Every piece of evidence referenced by exhibits, not emotion. This was not a story about heartbreak. This was a story about fraudulent intent, financial coercion, and strategic misrepresentation. When the declaration was ready, the lawyer printed the final page, the one where I would sign under penalty of perjury. My hand hovered over the line. This wasn't about the house anymore. Or the money. Or the lie. This was about the moment I stopped living in his version of reality. I signed. The lawyer placed the document in a sealed envelope and looked at me with the faintest smile. You just took back the narrative. That night, the house was silent. No footsteps upstairs. No voice in the hall. Just stillness. The kind of stillness that comes before the next move. I stood in the living room, fingers resting on the edge of the counter, when headlights flashed across the window. A car pulled into the driveway. Not Caleb's. Someone stepped out and walked to my door. No hesitation. No fear. No hurry. I knew who it was before I opened it. Marcus. He smiled like nothing had ever cracked. Vivian, he said softly, we need to talk. And this time you need to listen. Behind him in the passenger seat, someone else sat. Someone I did not expect. Marcus stood in the doorway like a man who had never been turned away from anything in his life. Polished. Relaxed. Confident in his own timing. But it was not his presence that made my breath still. It was the person sitting in the passenger seat of his car. Caleb's mother. Elaine. She had always been warm. Gentle voice. Holiday cookies. A smile that could soften a room. But the expression she wore now was not warmth. It was something quieter. Heavier. A kind of sadness mixed with calculation. I opened the door only halfway. Why is she here? I asked Marcus. He didn't answer my question. He stepped inside like the house already belonged to him. We need to clear the air, he said, closing the door behind him. I stayed where I was. Distance is a kind of defense. Elaine walked in slowly. No coat. Hands clasped in front of her. She looked smaller than I remembered. Vivian, she said softly. Sit with me. In another life I would have. Not today. I'll stand, I replied. Her eyes flicked briefly to Marcus. A signal. Subtle. Rehearsed. He began. Caleb told us that you're making decisions out of stress. That you've been influenced. That you're not thinking about what's best for the family. We came because we want to help you avoid making mistakes you'll regret. The language was careful. Non-accusatory. Polished like a script. Meaning Caleb had coached them. Elaine stepped closer. Honey, marriages go through hard seasons. You have children. A home. A life together. You need to remember that. Caleb loves you. He wants to work things out. There it was. The emotional appeal stage. I didn't respond. Not yet. Marcus continued, filling the silence with exactly what he wanted heard. You filed things. Paperwork moves fast when someone acts out of emotion. But courts don't like conflict. If you withdraw now, everything can go back to normal. I looked at him. Define normal. Marcus smiled. The kind of smile men use when they think they are being patient. Caleb retains the financial accounts. You retain the house. You both agree to joint custody. There's no public record. No embarrassment. No escalation. A perfect offer. A generous offer. If I didn't already know the math behind it. If I didn't know the accounts were nearly empty. If I didn't know he was trying to secure custody leverage before the court freeze finalized. If I didn't know this wasn't reconciliation. This was containment. My silence made Marcus shift his weight. He didn't like silence. Elaine tried again, voice trembling now. You are a good woman, Vivian. I know you are. Please don't destroy this family over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. The word nearly made me laugh. A forged signature is not a misunderstanding. A hidden credit line is not a misunderstanding. A prepared exit strategy is not a misunderstanding. I breathed in slowly. My attorney filed for injunction at 9 this morning, I said. Marcus's face tightened just slightly. Elaine blinked. Meaning? She asked. Meaning, I said. Any attempt to move funds, property, custody arrangements, or titles is now under judicial review. Nothing can happen without oversight. Marcus looked down. Just 1 second. 1 second where his confidence cracked. Elaine sat down at the table. She looked tired. Truly tired. And in that moment I understood. She didn't come to change my mind. She came to deliver Caleb's last attempt at control. If I had broken here, he would have won. I spoke gently. Not angry. Not triumphant. I'm not destroying this family, I said. I'm stopping someone from pretending they didn't already plan to. Elaine's breath caught. Her eyes told me she understood. Marcus stepped forward, voice low. You don't know what you've started. I met his stare. No, I said. I finally stopped what he started. He held my gaze a moment longer. Then something changed in his expression. Not anger. Recognition. He realized he had already lost the narrative. Elaine stood, placing one hand lightly on the table to steady herself. I am sorry, she whispered. I don't think she meant for me. I think she meant for herself. They left together. The door closed. The house was silent again. But it did not feel like a pause this time. It felt like the final turn before the final move. My phone buzzed. A notification from my lawyer. Judge approved. Injunction active. He has been officially served. And beneath that, a second message. Be prepared. The confrontation happens next. The next knock on the door would not be family. It would be him. The knock came at dusk. Not loud. Not hurried. Just steady. I opened the door. Caleb stood alone this time. No softness. No calm performance. No mask. Just the face of a man who realized the plan he engineered with precision had collapsed in silence. You didn't have to do this, he said. I did, I answered. He stepped inside without waiting to be invited. Out of old habit. Out of confidence he believed he still owned. He walked to the dining table. He looked at the folder of documents. The deed. The transfers. The injunction order. All of it. You think the law will protect you, he said. No, I replied. The truth will. He let out a low, brittle laugh. You are not strong enough for this fight. Strength. As if strength was volume. Or force. Or intimidation. Strength is consistency. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain. I didn't perform for him. You tried to take something that wasn't yours, I said. You did it quietly. Carefully. You assumed I would never look. He swallowed hard. Not at the words but at the fact I didn't offer anger. Anger would have given him something to push against. Calm was something he could not break. I loved you, he said. I believe you did, I replied. But you loved control more. The silence between us wasn't dramatic. It was final. He looked around the house then, at the curtains, the rosemary outside, the framed drawings from the kids, and he understood what he had lost. Not the house. The center. He walked to the door. Hand on the frame. Voice low. This isn't the end. I didn't step forward. Didn't argue. Didn't reassure. It is for me, I said. He left. And the door closed with a sound that felt like something inside me settling back into place. Day after. The house was quiet again. But it was my quiet. I made coffee. Opened windows. Let the light in. Claire came by. We replanted the rosemary. We laughed lightly, not because everything was easy, but because we had survived what wasn't. I filed the final paperwork. Clean. Precise. Complete. I didn't win through confrontation. I didn't win through power. I didn't win through threat. I won by knowing the truth and refusing to let go of it. If you are listening to my story, hear this clearly. Not every war is loud. Some unfold in paperwork and silence. Some battles are fought by staying steady, while someone else tries to convince you that you imagine the ground shifting. When someone tries to rewrite reality, the most powerful thing you can do is hold your own narrative steady. Keep receipts. Keep records. Keep your voice calm. And when the moment comes, speak the truth plainly. You do not have to be louder. You just have to be clear. Your story matters. Your home matters. Your sense of self matters. And you are allowed to protect all three.